I'm David Scandura,
I'm Justice Burkett.
and today we're here to find out, is the Ten Commandments the greatest movie ever made?
So let it be written. So let it be done.
Welcome to the greatest movie ever made. The show where we watch a movie and tell you if it's the greatest movie ever made.
Oh, Moses.
A movie that is so thoroughly entertaining and compelling that while you're watching it, it's the only thing that matters in the world. Amen. It's so fucking funny that priests do that.
Yes, that they do the like Kiri thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is pretty funny. Have you seen? There's a guy on TikTok who does just like he takes requests and then does them as like the Kiri, and he's like actually like I guess he is like he's not a priest, but he's one of the people in the Catholic Church who does that. Right?
Okay.
Is in real life. And so he like knows all of the like exactly how to do the words to make it fit the thing. It's very funny. But he takes requests, so he does like copy pastas and shit like that. He'll be like, for me, it's the McChicken. The best fast food sandwich. Yeah.
Imagine being the first guy to do that. It's just like,
and everybody
hey,
else is like, what the fuck?
hey guys, what if I sing this one?
You know what? We do this every single Sunday. I'm going to do a silly one this week. And then it just catches on. Everybody's like, oh, I really like when he sang that. Yeah.
Yes, welcome back to church, welcome back to temple, because it is right. Easter/Passover again, and
mosque is I don't know what Muslims call it when they go to the mosque to worship. Do they call it? I assume they don't call it going to church.
Going to mosque.
Do they call it going to mosque?
I don't know.
I should do some research about that.
Yeah.
I should educate myself. I always feel like I need to include the Muslims when we talk about Moses, which we have done twice now.
Yes, you have picked the book of Exodus twice.
I truly didn't think about it when I picked this movie. I was like, it's like Easter, so we should do the Ten Commandments for a reason that I will explain when we get into it. But I was like, we should do the Ten Commandments. And then you were like, this is the second time you've picked an adaptation of the book of Exodus. And I was like, I guess it is. Which is, it was unintentional and maybe says something about my psychology.
Yeah, I mean, are you just a big Moses head? Like,
I think the story of a desert wizard casting a bunch of spells on ancient Egypt is cool. That's a cool story, patently.
It's also the plot of Dune.
Yes, right. This movie it was really reminding me of Dune in certain spots. And I'm sure Frank Herbert took some inspiration from, the Holy Bible when he was writing Dune. And I do think Moses is sort of like, a little bit like a Paul Atreides-esque character where he's like, I don't want all this power. What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, other than the story of the crucifixion, like this is probably the Bible story that I know the best.
Yeah, wandering around in the desert for 40 years, very Dune. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big one in Sunday school.
Yeah,
the Moses one. I think just because it's very dramatic, right?
Sure.
Like, there's a lot of shit that happens in the Moses story where it's like, oh, he's a prince, but then he gets banished, and then there's the whole like plagues bit and the tablets. There's a lot of like very striking things that stick in your mind's eye as a youngster in Sunday school when you hear the Moses story. So I feel like that's why they teach it to kids, because it's like, this is stuff that they'll be able to like latch onto.
Right.
It's like there's a pillar of fire. It's dramatic. It's cinematic,
He parts the sea and they walk across the bottom of it. Yeah.
It also lends itself to theatrical interpretation,
definitely.
Which is why this one has, like, the Moses story has been made into multiple movies.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas, there's not a bunch of movies out there about like Elisha, just not as compelling images, I guess.
Yeah. And this one also just like, in terms of the sort of themes and lessons that you want kids to get out of a Bible story, this one kind of encompasses them all.
Especially because it ends with, or a climactic point of it is, here's 10 rules you are supposed to follow.
Right.
And one of them is listen to your mom and dad. So you get why they teach that to kids too. Because they're like, hey, God said, You know, you remember the God who did all of this awesome shit in this story? He says that you should listen to your mom and dad. He wrote it on a stone and gave it to that guy that we've been telling you about. So you really got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, for a movie called The Ten Commandments, it does not spend a lot of time on the Ten Commandments, and I would love a 3 hour and 40-minute version of him reciting the Ten Commandments and then listing off all the other things he says afterwards about, like, here are the dimensions for the temple.
Right.
Here's what you can and can't do with the slave.
Yes.
Just
Book of Deuteronomy, the movie. Where it's just a bunch of rules. It's like, well, you can eat this animal under these conditions, but not this animal. And this animal you can eat in this specific way, but not in that specific way.
Let's see Heston do that dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the tablet scene, which is the very end of the movie, so it's going to be a while before we get there, probably in earnest. But I do think that, to your point, if that was stretched out even longer, it would become incredibly boring because it already takes a while. God really takes his time putting those rules on those tablets, where he's like, I'm gonna talk really slow and do these one at a time. I forgot number 6. Gonna hold on this one for a minute. It'll come to me. Just hang out there for a little bit, Moses.
Let me check my notes app. I was drafting these all weekend.
Oh, that's the don't kill one. How could I forget?
Yeah.
Really think that one should have been higher on the list, but I guess it's coming in at number 6 because I forgot about it.
Before we get to talking about this, again, 3 hour and 40-minute movie.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Anything you would like to recommend?
I am doing quite well. I have had a busy week, a very busy weekend. I am now the facilities manager of an operating venue here in Flagstaff, Arizona, and it turns out that means my weekends are sometimes busy because that's when things happen in venues.
It's very funny that you quit your primary job.
Yes.
And we're like, okay, I have a couple of weeks to relax. And then suddenly everything became very busy for you. And every weekend has just been incredibly hectic.
I'm busier than I've ever been. I'm also way happier than I was at the old job.
Yes.
So it's a net positive, but you are right. It is funny that I left my high-paying full-time job and was like, I'm going to chill a little bit. And now I'm like, oh, actually, my life has only gotten busier and there is no end in sight. It is going to continue being busier and busier. But I am good. I'm good and busy. And for things to recommend, I just wanted to shout out that 2 of the biggest names in doom metal right now have a new album out. That would be Mizmor and Hell have a collab album out called Alluvion, and it is fucking 40 minutes of punishing, bone-grinding, intense, extreme doom metal. With also some nice kind of like meditative little breaks, because both of those guys are experimenters within the doom genre. So like some of it goes a little bit more like the funeral doom territory, where there's like passages that kind of like ease up on the intensity. And yeah, it's really good shit.
Cool.
It is. If you're a metal fan, definitely listen to Alluvion by Mizmor and Hell. David, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I was sick earlier this week, and I'm still sort of getting over it. Just, seasons changing and allergies or a cold flare up or something. And then the Friday morning after, I was like, okay, I feel a little bit better. I decided to walk to the gym in the morning because that's been part of something I've been trying to do. Is like, gym's so close by, I might as well get some steps in and walk. And it was 25 degrees outside and windy. And I didn't realize until halfway through the walk that I was like, oh, yeah, I was sick yesterday.
Right.
And I decided to do this.
Maybe not a great idea.
Yeah, I don't know if it's prolonged my symptoms or anything like that, but I'm still like a little...
Probably didn't help.
I still probably sound a little sick on this episode, but I'm mostly okay. And yeah, good week. Got my taxes done, getting a nice big refund from the state.
Hell yeah.
And then I owe the federal government $2,
Fuck.
which I also did last year.
$2. I mean, I guess that's technically the ideal scenario.
Right.
You want it to be as close to zero as possible, but it does feel shitty that you like paid taxes out of your paycheck all year and then they're like $2 more, please.
Yeah, I was gonna send them a fucking jar of pennies.
You're light. It's ridiculous. Anyway.
Yeah, and spent some time with my dad. And yeah, otherwise I'm doing good. As far as recommendations go, Justice, I would like to introduce a new segment
Whoa.
to the recommendations
Yes.
portion of the episode that we're going to call David listens to one Avenged Sevenfold album per week. So, editing Justice, play that copyrighted music. Justice, we are here to discuss Sounding the Seventh Trumpet by Avenged Sevenfold.
Yes.
I listened to that.
Apropos for this episode, lots of biblical themes on that album.
Not so much lyrically, I don't think.
Oh, I guess.
But
yeah. The album art and the title of that.
Definitely, yeah. So this is probably my second or third time listening to it in my life. Quite a few years ago when Nightmare came out, my friend gave me a jump drive with all of their music so far, and I listened to Seventh the Sounding Trumpet probably once.
Yeah.
And didn't like it that much. And this week I listened to it twice.
Yeah.
And the first time I wasn't terribly into it. And the second time I was like, I'm kind of having more fun with this.
Yeah.
Like it's a little bit better that second time around.
Yeah. It's, if I'm remembering correctly, it's a little bit more like crust punky and less like metalcore, like they would eventually become.
There's a lot of moments on that are straight up punk.
Yeah.
Which is I really liked, like the Streets is just a punk song.
Yeah.
Thrown on at the end of the album. So the reason we're doing this is because you were at one point in your life a big Avenged Sevenfold fan.
I was a huge Avenged Sevenfold fan. To the point where it was a toss up for my first tattoo whether I was going to get what I actually got or the Avenged Sevenfold Death Bat, and I am so thankful every single day of my life that I went with the design I went with and not with the Avenged Sevenfold tattoo. The tattoo I actually went with was a Bible verse, and that has held up better than the Death Bat. So yeah, I was a big fan. Still have a fondness for their music, and there are still some of their albums that I would say I like still enjoy quite a bit, but nowhere near the level of fandom that I used to be with them.
Yeah.
Sort of one that I look back on and I'm like, oh yeah, I used to be really big on them. Yeah.
I think this first record really suffers from the production.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's not bad. It's just, that you listening to it, you want that big City of Evil heavy metal sound, and it's just not quite there. It's a little bit thinner, and also like the production on M. Shadow's voice.
Yeah. Also, just his singing voice doesn't get good for a few albums.
Yeah, his screams aren't really that great on that record either.
Yeah.
But there's still like some cool stuff that I pulled out of it. I liked Warmness on the Soul was a good song. I liked Streets, a couple of the earlier tracks on the record. And the last song on the album was really good too.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you have any strong feelings on that album in particular?
It's probably the one I remember the least well of the ones I've listened to. Now, I will say I was a big Avenged Sevenfold fan, but the fandom didn't hang on well enough for me to listen to their most recent like 2 albums. I never listened to The Stage, and I never listened to Life Is But a Dream. I've heard all the other albums, but of the ones I've heard, Sounding the Seventh Trumpet rather, is probably the one I remember the least.
Yeah.
It's been a really long time since I went back to it, so I don't really have strong feelings about it because it's kind of a distant memory for me at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. It was one of the ones that I was into less when I was really into them.
Mm-hmm.
I was more into their like really like thrash metal sound, like on City of Evil. And there's less of that on Sounding the Seventh, so I wasn't as into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I listened to this week. It's not necessarily a recommendation, but I wanted to talk about it. And we'll continue doing this until I run out of Avenged Sevenfold albums.
You're just going to listen to Are you also going to do this with the live albums?
Probably not.
Just studio albums only.
Yeah.
No EPs, no.
I thought it would be funny.
It is funny. If not to anyone else, at least to me.
Okay, the 10 Commandments, directed by Cecil B. DeMille.
Yes.
This was your pick, as we previously stated.
It was.
Picking the Book of Exodus for the second time.
Yes.
Talk to me about your history with this flick.
Yes. So, as many of our listeners may know, especially ones who grew up in the age where network television was still a thing that everyone was watching all the time, this used to air, and I think still does air, on network television, basically like around Passover / Easter, which are usually pretty close together, every year. And I grew up in a very religious household. I was, raised in the Christian church and stuff. And so I was, Sunday school kid. And my parents were big fans of when this movie was airing on like ABC or whatever. They would like look in the TV guide, know when it was coming up, know when it was going to air, and we would like make sort of an event around this a lot of years, right? We would like all eat dinner and hang out and have snacks and popcorn and stuff and watch this 4-hour film as a family with commercial breaks. So it's really more like a 5.5-hour film.
Yeah, Jesus, I can't imagine watching this on cable TV.
It's most of a day, yeah. And so I've seen this movie a bunch of times. Probably less than a dozen, but more than a half dozen, I would say, is probably around where it's at. Because this wasn't like an every year thing, but several years in my childhood, I remember sitting down and watching the 10 Commandments on TV. I don't think we ever owned it. I think it was just a thing where it was like when it aired annually, we would tune in. And a lot of the time we would tune in like from the beginning. So I have seen this movie in its entirety a lot of times. And I remember having a fondness for it. I remember as a kid, again, Sunday school kid, this is a story that I was already familiar with, so it wasn't hard for me to follow, right? And I remember just being like, oh yeah, like the 10 Commandments, great movie. There's a bazillion extras on screen. There's some cool effects. There's some performances that even as a kid I kind of latched onto. But I hadn't gone back to it in a really long time. And with Easter coming up, happy Holy Week, everybody. Happy Good Friday, I guess, when this when this episode comes out, right?
I think so.
Yeah. But saying Happy Good Friday feels wrong.
Happy day that Jesus was crucified.
Very somber Good Friday to you all. I think I might have said
meditative and reflective and prayer-filled Good Friday.
I think I might have said this on our Prince of Egypt episode, which also aired around Easter. But my mom has always thought it was weird that the Saturday doesn't have a name. There's Good Friday, Easter Sunday, and then there's the Saturday in between. And I think it technically does have a name.
I thought it was Holy Saturday.
Okay,
that might be a Catholic thing.
It might be a Catholic thing, and I wasn't raised Catholic. But
yeah.
I never knew it as Holy Saturday, and so my mom always proposed that that's Dead Saturday, because Jesus was crucified on Good Friday, and he's resurrected on Easter Sunday, and the Saturday in between he's just dead. So it should be Dead Saturday.
Saturday, nothing's going on.
It's just Dead Saturday. Anyway. I was interested to go back to it and see how this one held up for me, viewing it as an adult who is separated by a couple decades from the last time I've seen this movie, probably, and also a couple decades from my time in Sunday school. So, that's pretty much where I'm at with it. Had you seen this movie before?
No, this is my first time.
That's what I thought. You had never seen Cecil B. DeMille's The 10 Commandments.
No, my the religious films that were on when I was a child were a lot more kid-oriented. So,
right.
Prince of Egypt, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoats.
Yeah.
I think even DreamWorks did like a Joseph animated adaptation.
Yes, they did, and nobody remembers it because it was not the Prince of Egypt.
Because it was like it was on the coattails of Prince of Egypt.
They didn't get Val Kilmer and Val Kilmer, R.I.P. by the way.
Yeah, holy shit.
Very sad news that we got this week, but didn't have Val Kilmer or Ray Fiennes in the Joseph one.
Yeah,
and I want to look up who's in like Joseph King of Dreams or whatever. Just to see if it's anyone I recognize.
But it was also like VeggieTales and like definitely, yeah.
Oh fuck, Ben Affleck as Joseph.
Oh,
I can't imagine that that's better than Kilmer as Moses, though.
Probably not.
Ben Affleck, an actor I like. Okay, not necessarily an actor I think of as a voice performer for cartoons.
Sure.
Mark Hamill as Judah. That's
now
that's a voice actor.
That's a fucking voice actor right there.
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah. So my parents were not at all going to sit me down and make me watch a 4-hour movie about Moses as a kid.
Yeah.
And as someone who has been an atheist and been away from the church for most of my life at this point, it's not one that I've come across or intentionally sought out.
Yes.
However, I do have a soft spot for historical, sometimes biblical epics.
Right.
So in that sense, I was a little surprised that this was my first time watching it, because I do love just like sitting down for 3 hours in ancient Rome.
This is a sword and sandals epic.
Yeah.
The Bible stuff looms quite large in this film. However, it is also of the Spartacus, Ben-Hur
right.
Ilk, where it's like, yeah, let's see a bunch of greased up, spray tanned dudes without shirts, wear sandals and talk like they're in, the ancient world for 4 hours.
Right. Build lavish sets.
Yeah. Crazy
intermissions and all that shit.
Overtures and entr'actes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, this is my first time with this film.
Cool.
And have some thoughts on it.
A piece of film history that you have absorbed for the first time.
Yeah.
This was wildly successful when it came out.
Yes, still one of the most successful films of all time, I think.
I think by some metrics it's like 8th still.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Biggest film of 1956. Did not win the Academy Award for Best Picture. It was nominated, but it won visual effects. Because some of the shit in this movie is pretty impressive for 1956. I can see why the Academy was like, all right.
Yeah, definitely.
And a thing that I think is fucked up is that Yul Brynner got like some precursor awards, but then wasn't nominated for Best Supporting Actor for the Oscars for this performance, which, in my opinion, is fucking insane, because Yul Brynner is easily the best part of this movie for me.
I agree.
Yul Brynner fucking rocks. He rocks so fucking hard. Also, one of our greatest balds. One of the bald community's absolute heroes, icons. Every bald aspires to be Yul Brynner. And he is rocking the shaved dome.
He's
in this
fucking
movie.
jacked in this movie too.
His quads,
body is insane.
His quads should have their own billing. In the opening credits, it should be like Yul Brynner as Ramesses, Yul Brenner's left quad as Ramesses' left quad.
I was gonna say that about Ann Baxter's areolas. Poking through some of those see-through dresses earlier in the movie.
That too.
God.
But Yul Brenner's
they're
legs. Like Sorry, you're on Ann Baxter's.
Sorry, I'm on tits right now.
I'm still thinking about that man's gams, man. They're like fucking. He looks like a Thanksgiving turkey with these thighs he's got.
Yeah, and Baxter's nipples look like fucking baby bottles, just up there, like poking out of those costumes.
Anyone else's body parts deserve their own billing in this movie? Vincent Price's lack of mustache. Without a mustache is so cursed.
Every time that man does a performance without a mustache, it's like even creepier. It's even worse than normal Vincent Price. Yeah, like you said.
Yes. I don't think we need to like do much of the plot of this movie, because here's the thing. It's the story of Moses, and we already did an episode on the story of Moses. There's some stuff in this movie that is different than the Moses story, the traditional Moses story, which we should talk about.
Yeah, it seems like DeMille took a lot of different sources.
Yes.
He cobbled together lots of research and religious interpretations when making this movie. And I I mean, like the opening credits cite several books,
Yes.
which I think was really interesting.
A point of contention among religious people viewing this movie in 1956 and in the subsequent years is like, oh, they used like biblical apocrypha for some of the stories. So like some like real hardliners are like, the Ten Commandments movie is like heresy because they use like some like extra biblical texts that like aren't part of biblical canon or whatever, but it's like it helps flesh out the story, so I don't really mind it.
Yeah, and it gives it a slightly different take on things, you know?
Yeah. I do like that Cecil B. DeMille comes out at the beginning of the movie and is like, I'm Cecil B. DeMille and I'm ancient and I'm here to tell you what this movie's about.
Yeah, this was his final film. He was 75.
Yeah.
I didn't have that in my version.
You didn't?
I did not.
Wow. Well, you missed an old guy yapping about the movie he made.
Mine starts with the Paramount logo replaced with Mount Sinai.
Yes, which is cool.
Which looks like I think it's just the evil version of the Paramount logo.
It doesn't, for some reason, like, so Mount Sinai in this movie is supposed to be like the holiest place.
Yeah.
It's the place where God is. It looks like fucking Mount Doom.
Yeah, the movie treats it like it's fucking Mordor.
A thing I actually sort of like about this movie is kind of that stuff.
Yeah.
Where they kind of treat God like he's like really scary and sort of like everybody kind of doesn't want to meet God, you know? Like when Sephora and Moses are talking about Mount Sinai and she's like, oh yeah, when it rumbles, we know like that's when God is like up there doing God stuff. And she's like, no man goes up there, and if you look upon the face of God, you'll like be stricken dead, right? And some of that's from the Bible, but it's like the way they approach it in the movie is kind of like, oh yeah, this is like a cosmic unknowable force that like we shouldn't mess with, you know? And I kind of like that that's the way this movie treats God, is not as like, oh, he's your buddy, he's your pal. It's like, no, he should be feared and respected. and in most cases avoided entirely. Right? Don't mess with his shit, because he's, you know, whatever he's doing is beyond your mortal comprehension and it'll break your sanity to look at it, you know? It's sort of a Lovecraftian take on the Hebrew God at points in this movie, and I'm like, I kind of dig that.
That's a bit of a stretch.
It's a bit of a stretch.
This movie, at the end of the day, Cecil B. DeMille wants you to go home and pray and think about the Ten Commandments and go to church.
Yes.
You can't do that if you're treating God as an unknowable monster.
That's true. But maybe I'm projecting some of that onto it. But I think some of the like scariness is in the movie.
I think that's inherent to just like Old Testament God and this story in particular. So
yeah,
any adaptation is going to have to imbue that in some way.
Right.
But I do like how it is deployed through the depiction of Mount Sinai throughout the film.
Yeah. This movie is a little Sunday school-y. Even the intro with Cecil B. DeMille, which you didn't have, is very much him being like, we wanted to tell the story of Moses because we are good Christians here in this country, and right now we're fighting the Red Menace, and we need our faith to unify us. He doesn't actually say that, but that's very much the tone of it.
Well, right? This is a remake. He made a silent movie called The Ten Commandments in the 1920s.
Yes.
That had a prologue that was the story of Exodus. And then the main film took place in the modern day about two brothers and incorporated elements of the Ten Commandments into that story as like a parable.
I do think it's very interesting that he remade his own movie as his last film.
Yeah, he was originally going to do a similar thing where the Ten Commandments portion of the movie was going to be like the beginning, and then the main story was going to be set in the modern day. And then he also had a lot of fans writing to him and saying that, like, you know, America's lost its soul. It needs to be reminded of the Ten Commandments. And,
yes.
And then
it's
shifted.
1956. We need to make America great again.
Yeah. Then it shifted to
like it was back in the good old days in the 20s. Yeah.
And then it shifted to just doing a literal adaptation of the Book of Exodus.
Yeah.
And when he was also going to do other scenes from the Bible leading up to it, and that's what I thought he was going to do with this opening, which is the Book of Genesis, where we just get a few lines from the book of Genesis, but then we move on to
we really
Exodus.
speed through Genesis.
Yeah.
It's basically like God created man.
Yeah, fucking God created shit. You know
Yeah.
this. All right. Anyway,
yada yada yada. Here's a baby in a basket. Yeah, this movie does. It's very interesting what this movie chooses to dwell on for long periods of time.
yes,
And what it chooses to yada yada yada, because like those choices are quite intentional on the a part of the filmmakers, clearly, and at times, at least for me, a little baffling, where I'm like, wait, we spent all that time on Nefertiti and Moses.
Oh my God.
And now we're yada yada yadaing the plagues?
Yes. That is exactly what I was thinking of.
Yes. Which is it, like, as I was watching it, I was like, we couldn't have spent 15 more minutes on the plagues and just cut a little bit of fucking Charlton Heston and Anne Baxter, holding each other close and talking about how they will never be together because of reasons. It's like, I fucking get it. Look, also, this part's not even in the Bible, and I don't really give a shit.
Yeah, it is extra biblical stuff.
It is.
And therefore heresy.
And therefore heresy, to be clear, yes. Cecil B. DeMille is departed. He's dearly deceased for quite a few years now, but if he was still alive, he should be burned at the stake as a heretic.
He's looking up at us from hell right now. Every time it fucking cuts to...
He's like, what am I doing down here? I made the 10 Commandments. It doesn't matter that I said we needed a different actress as Sephora because the first actress's titties weren't big enough, which is apparently a true thing that happened.
Oh.
It was like, or maybe it was Nefertiti. It was one of the female leads. They had another actress in, and he was like, she needs bigger cans. We're telling a Bible story here, goddammit. Get her out of here.
Tits gotta be the land of milk and honey. I think this was he was coming off of his Best Picture award for Greatest Show on Earth. So I think a lot of people were interested in working with him. And I mean, he was getting up in age. He was already a legend. So like a lot of people figured like we should work with DeMille before he dies.
Yeah.
Man, every time it cuts to fucking Edward G. Robinson as Dathan, I'm like, what? You could lose 75% of his scenes.
He is Edward G. Robinson is all over this fucking movie. I did not remember that Dathan is like the second biggest character in the movie. I felt the same way as you. I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing here again? And don't get me wrong. I like his performance as Dathan. I think Edward G. Robinson is doing a good job playing this very slimy, lascivious...
He's a great actor.
Villainous character, and he's a great actor. But I'm like, why so much of it?
Why are there so many subplots in this movie?
There's a lot of subplots.
It's just a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. Yeah, and like, they get kicked off, like, relatively early. Because it's like, we have the baby in the basket. I do have to call out, and it brings me no joy to do this, but I do have to call out that the kid who plays young Miriam is...
Suck shit?
One of the worst child actors we have ever seen on the show before.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, do I have things to say about the child actors in this film.
All of the child actors in this movie are abysmal.
There was, you know what? There were a couple of the young Israelite kids.
Okay.
I think they have some dialogue with Joshua. Are
they the ones like helping the blind man?
Oh, with the blind man. Yeah.
Those ones are okay. Every other kid in this movie sucks ass.
Moses' kid sucks?
Yes.
Maybe the most.
Ramsey's kid sucks.
Oh, yeah. As soon as Ramsey's kid opens his mouth and then, like,
when that kid
fucking kicks Moses, I'm like, oh, man, you're going to die so hard.
When that kid dies, I was like, yes. And he dies slow, too. I was like, yeah. Suffer. Man, but young Miriam might take the cake. This kid is so bad. I wrote down one of her lines just because the delivery was so stilted that I had to make a note of it. She goes, "But mother, we have not even given him a name." And like when she delivered that exactly the way I maybe put too much juice into that. Imagine that with less charisma. I was like, did I make a huge mistake? Does the 10 Commandments suck? Is this movie terrible? Is what that line delivery like made me afraid of? Because that's like 5 minutes into the movie, and I was like, "What have I done to David and I? Am I about to watch a 4-hour flop?" And more thoughts later on how that panned out, but like bad tone setter, this kid.
Well, so you had a very busy weekend.
Yeah.
What was your viewing experience of this like? Did you do it on one sitting or did you do it in chunks?
I did not. I had to do it in chunks just because of the runtime, because of my busy weekend. I would have liked to sit down and watch this all in one go. I watched about the first hour of it last night, and then got too tired.
Mm-hmm.
And then I continued watching it this morning, had to go to the theater and do some stuff, and then kind of finished it up this afternoon. So it was kind of like 3 chunks.
Okay.
Right. Which, it's a 4-hour movie, and there's like I picked pretty obvious times to break, right? Where it didn't feel like I was like breaking up the experience too much. But yeah, I didn't watch it all at once.
I did it in one go.
Yeah.
I did take a decent break in there before the intermission, because the intermission doesn't come halfway through. It's more like 2+ hours in.
Yeah.
And then I had a couple bathroom breaks thrown in the mix there, but I did do it in one sitting today.
Wow.
But yeah, early on in this movie, we're getting a lot of extraneous subplots and stuff thrown in.
Can I
like you were saying?
Can I give you a take about this movie that tips my hand toward my verdict a little bit?
Sure.
The first hour of this movie, I think, is not good. I don't think the first hour of the 10 Commandments is good.
Okay.
I was often quite bored in this first hour because of all these subplots that you're talking about, right? It's like in the first hour is when you get the love triangle between Nefertiti and Ramses and Moses. And some of that is okay, but there's just so much of it. And there's so much with Sethi and Ramses and Moses and him being like, which of you is going to be the pharaoh? I'll figure it. And like, it just feels like it like drags on for a long, because it's not until an hour into the movie that Moses kills Vincent Price, right? And kind of everything before that wasn't really grabbing me. I was like not enjoying watching the first hour of this movie. What was your experience with the beginning of this movie?
See, I sort of liked it.
Okay.
I was not fully on board. I could tell from the jump that the love triangle stuff was going to be too much, and it was even worse than I thought it was going to be throughout the rest of the movie. But for this first hour, basically up until Moses is banished, I'm kind of just a little swept away and wrapped up in the spectacle of it all.
Right.
Because, I mean, first, this movie's shot on VistaVision.
Yes.
In Technicolor.
Yes.
It looks gorgeous to this day.
It does.
The HD version or whatever that was on Amazon that I rented looks beautiful.
Yeah, it does look incredible. Yeah. And the thing that I think was not really grabbing me early on is that this movie does look incredible, but I feel like so much of the early stuff is just groups of people in rooms talking. And that stuff to me looks really stagey. And there's not a lot of close-ups. It's a lot of wide shots. It looks very like we're just filming a theatrical production for a lot of the beginning for me. And I was just like, I wish this was more cinematic. And then in my opinion, it starts getting more cinematic as you go along.
I think it does too.
Yeah.
But I think there was a certain I definitely did hit my limit with the sets and the staginess of the production at a certain point in this movie. But for the first hour or so, I was really sort of rocking with it. And weirdly enough, once he goes into the desert, some of that stuff, like becoming acquainted with the tribe and all of that, I sort of tuned out for some of that stuff.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I think this first, I don't know. I just think the sets and the costuming and like the lavish production did suck me in, even if I do think the script and some of the performances and the themes that we're dealing with here do just sort of ring a little hollow.
Yeah, some of the performances in this movie are I don't think other than the kids that a lot of people are like outright bad, but some of them are just very like kind of over the top, a little melodramatic. It's a little bit like we were out of the silent film era by several decades by 56, but it does still feel like kind of that overly heightened stuff that you see like right out of the silent film era.
Mhm.
You know what I'm talking about? And especially like, no shade to Anne Baxter, who's a wonderful actress. She sometimes is a little bit broad for me in this movie.
Well, her character's unquenchably horny.
Yes. Well, okay. This is also a thing we need to talk about. Everyone in this movie, every single woman in this movie is like out of their mind horny for Charlton Heston.
Also, there 4 of our lead female performances
Yeah.
are brunette women that are around the
Yes.
same age.
Yes.
So originally, when Anne Baxter comes on screen, I'm like, that's the same actress that played. Does his mom want to fuck him?
Right, yeah. No. His mom doesn't want to fuck him. Don't worry about that. It's actually technically his aunt who wants to fuck him. Because it's his uncle's wife. Right? She's married to Seti.
Yeah.
This is weird, right? Because it's like she's married to the pharaoh, and then the pharaoh's son wants to fuck her, so he wants to fuck his own. I assume she's not his mom. I assume he has another biological mom, but she's his stepmom, right? Which, you know.
Yeah.
It's just Yul Brynner. Yul Brynner's character, just a big fan of much of the pornography available on the internet, I guess. Where it's like, it's fine because she's my stepmom. He's just like, oh man, I hope Nefertiri gets stuck in a dryer around here. And then yeah, like then Moses also has a thing for Nefertiri, who is like his step aunt, and he's adopted, but he doesn't know he's adopted.
Right.
So yeah, it's all very weird and incestuous, and I understand it's royalty and it's the ancient world and all that shit, but you know, it's still kind of weird and fucked up and kinky. Yeah, I'm Cecil B. DeMille's casting director or whoever, maybe the man himself, just clearly has a type when it comes to the women in this movie because they do all sort of look the same.
Yeah.
It is funny when Nefertiri meets Sephora and Sephora and is like they're on screen together for the first time, and it's like, wow, it really is kind of like they're looking in a mirror. It's just like alternate versions of the same woman.
Well, and Moses's mother, his Egyptian mother.
Yeah.
She there's like old age makeup used throughout this movie, but not a lot for her. She hardly looks like she's aged a day. Meanwhile, Charlton Heston has grown to the age of he was 33 when he made this, and he already looks like hammered shit.
Yes. He I will say though, the fake beards on him in this movie way better than the fake beard in the Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
He's really rocking the fake beards in this movie.
How do you feel about his performance?
I like Charlton Heston in this movie. I think he is good. There are moments of his performance that work better for me than others. I think that he really pulls off the like biblical epic like voice of the prophet leading his people into freedom shtick, right? Where he's like standing on top of a rock and decreeing things out loud to thousands of people, right? He does that really well. I kind of think though that by the end of the movie I'm a little tired of that mode. And what I really rock with in this movie is his little intimate scenes with like one other person. The Nefertiri stuff kind of like starts to weigh on me after a while, where I'm just like, all right, enough of this. But I really like his stuff with Sephora.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like all of his like kind of little moments with the Israelites, right? And like that shit, I was like, oh, this is the mode that I really like Charlton Heston in this movie. He can like get up there and bellow in his baritone, but like when the camera actually has an opportunity to get close to his face, which doesn't happen enough in this movie, in my opinion, and show him like emoting and connecting with the other actors, I'm like, oh yeah, this guy is a fucking actor. Like he's really good at this, you know? So yeah, overall, it's like a little bit of a mixed bag, but I think I land pretty positive on him.
Yeah.
How do you feel about old Chuck Heston?
I think he's great as final form Moses.
Yeah.
Like the second half of the movie, he does all of that so well.
Yeah.
And his beard just, as his beard just grows longer and longer and grayer, and he becomes more, he's more of the prophet that we know Moses to be. I think he really, really works. I struggle with him for the beginning of the movie. He's one of the things that didn't work for me about the opening, even though I was otherwise like really, really into the film.
Okay.
Because I think I don't quite buy him as the young Val Kilmer Moses doing chariot races with his brother.
Yeah.
He doesn't he feels too much like he's playing the traditional Hollywood lead at the beginning of the movie, and I don't know if that quite works. And part of it is just he just reads as too old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of amazing to think that we're both going to be 33 this year.
Man, we're almost Charlton Heston's age when he filmed this movie, which is crazy because to your point, he looks like he is 45 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard living. I'm pretty sure Charlton Heston just came out of the womb with like a glass of scotch and a cigar in his mouth.
Yeah, and a gun in the other hand.
Yeah.
But the performance that was really compelling me in the beginning of the movie and throughout the movie is Yul Brynner.
Yes.
Yul Brynner is as close to perfect casting as this movie has, I think.
Yes, he is. I said it already, and I'll say it again. He is easily the best part of this movie. Every time Yul Brynner's on screen, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is why people watch the Ten Commandments." It's because this guy right here is cooking with fucking gas. Just so much good shit with his eyes.
Yeah.
Because the camera doesn't go close enough to people's faces in this movie. And it's not like close-ups weren't popular by 1956. So I'm like, I have a little bit of a gripe with this movie. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. Fucking put the camera in an actor's face, goddammit. But even though there's so many like wide shots where it's like, oh, look at this wonderful set with all of these people kind of distantly towards the back of the frame, right? Yul Brynner always captures your attention because his eyes are so big and wide and expressive. And I'm like, I can see him emoting. He's almost acting like it's a theater performance because he kind of has to. Because of like how much other shit's going on around him.
Well, he has a great physicality to the character. He's like he's using those broad shoulders.
Yeah.
He's throwing his body around.
Him standing like this with his hands on his hips. I'm like, I have never seen a man stand with his hands on his hips better than Yul Brynner in the Ten Commandments. It's the best anyone's ever done it. Yeah.
And we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but it seems like the Prince of Egypt directly took this version of Ramses and just animated it. And like, obviously, like I think there was a lot of inspiration from Ten Commandments down to the Prince of Egypt. But it is funny that every adaptation I've seen of Ramses it's doing the same thing. It's like he's got his titties out all the time.
Yep.
He's got some eye makeup going on. Although I don't think Brynner has a ton of eye makeup in this one.
Yeah.
And he's got he's rocking a weird side pony and he's bald otherwise.
Does Yul Brynner pull off the side pony?
He pulls off the side pony.
Right?
Better than Heston does.
Oh, way better than Heston does. When Heston has that side pony, I was like, nah, dog. Yeah, you absolutely should go off and wander in the wilderness because that is a fucking crime against humanity. Banish him for the side pony alone. But like Yul Brynner, I was like, he's getting away with it. It's working for him.
And the other thing is, we'll probably talk about this more. a whole lot of fucking white folks in this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys know this about Egypt. Not a lot of white folks in Egypt.
Yeah. I mean, at least not who are ancestrally from there.
So a lot of this movie is these, classically trained British actors in like pharaoh headdresses and shit. And then when you get to Yul Brynner, because he's Russian born, he's Russian. He's from America, but he's born from Russian immigrants, I believe.
Yeah.
He can sort of pass as like maybe just foreign enough.
In 1956, he's like he looks less obviously white.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like a pretty low bar for this movie, but it's like, yeah. And I get what you're saying. It's less jarring seeing him in full Egyptian regalia than it is the guy who's playing Seti, who just looks like every old British theater actor.
Right. That really breaks my immersion. And of course, the extensive brown face that this movie has.
Yeah, movie spent approximately $1 million on spray tan. just darker. Yeah, it's 1956, but that's not an excuse. It's just an explanation. Yeah. Anyway, Yul Brynner's great.
Yeah.
Love those quads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything in this early part of the movie that we want to? I did forget that Nefertiti pretty early in the movie straight up murders a lady.
Oh yeah.
Which is a fun moment of the beginning. I said, okay, I've been thinking ever since I said it. I said the first hour of this movie is bad. I'm going to walk that back. The first hour of this movie was not my favorite part of this movie, and I struggled with it.
Okay.
I don't think it was bad. I think maybe that was hyperbole. Because there is some stuff in the first hour of this movie that does grab me, like the set design, like all of the spectacle of it, right? And also some little moments here and there, like anytime Vincent Price is on screen, and also Nefertiti just straight up like murking this lady who is gonna tell everyone that Moses is not actually Egyptian born.
Yes, she's Moses's mother's servant and was the only one there when she pulled him out of the water. She kept onto the
little scrap of fabric.
Yeah, the cloth that he was wearing. I also really like that they incorporate that into Moses' costume design when he is full power Moses.
Yes. And they even explain it with like a throwaway line of dialogue where it's like, your mother made you this right before she died. Anyway, off into the desert you go. Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna need give me a full cloak of that. You guys got any more of this fabric? I think it's pretty sweet. Yeah, I really, really like it when Nefertiti kills this servant.
Yeah.
And then she's in the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I feel like you peaked really early and we didn't need you to hang around for the rest of the Sorry, I need to rant for a second.
Yes, rant away, my friend.
Fucking Moses and the Israelites have crossed the Red Sea. The Red Sea has closed. All of Ramses' soldiers are drowning in the Red Sea. And then we fucking cut back to Nefertiti, and I'm like, bitch, get out of the movie.
Cut to Anne Baxter sneering.
Your time has passed. We need to get to we haven't even fucking read the 10 Commandments yet.
Right.
Get out of the goddamn movie.
The 10 Commandments haven't even showed up yet, and I know for a fact you're not going to be involved with that shit. So what are you still doing here? Yes. Although I do kind of like that last moment with Ramses and Nefertiti, where she's just like, you couldn't even do one thing, and he's like, well, sorry, but I was up against the Most High God. Anyway, I'm out. And then they fade transition out of the movie. Yeah, she hangs on in here for two. To me, it's not necessarily that she's in the movie for too long in the story. It's more that she's just in too many scenes. She's in too much of the runtime itself. If she is in that scene that's like 20 minutes from the end that you were just talking about,
right?
But she hasn't been on screen for the better part of 3 hours.
If she hasn't
a little bit more forgiving.
If she hasn't kept showing up every 5 fucking minutes in this movie, yeah, I get you.
There is so much of this Nefertiti stuff. It's most of the movie, it feels like at times. And yeah. But I do like when she kills that lady. And then she tells Moses about it because she cannot keep a secret for the life of her, this lady. Because Moses is like, oh, you killed your servant, why'd you do that? And she's like, don't make me tell you, Moses. And he's like, well, I'd really like to know. And she's like, okay, it's because you're a Hebrew. What do you want from me? And it's like, wow, you really gave that up real quick. But then I love this thing that she's doing because, like, they're in love. They have a mutual thing going on. And she doesn't want to marry Ramses. So she wants Moses to become the pharaoh so that she can marry him. And so she's like, in this scene, she's like, I've killed for you, Moses, and I'll do it again. It's actually pretty great stuff. And then it just wears a little thin when we try and like stretch this out for more of the movie.
Yeah, she's fully an overly attached girlfriend meme.
Yes.
At this part of the movie.
Yeah, she's like, I will kill anyone who comes between us, and I have proved it. Like Exhibit A, the corpse that's in my bedroom right now. I do like this bit with her. Like, I think that this early stuff, I'm like, all right, this kind of works.
Yeah.
I don't know. Then, basically, because Moses learns that he is a Hebrew, he gains class consciousness. I forgot about this part of the movie because this I think, is also not in the Bible. Basically, it's like Moses is an Egyptian prince who then like murders a guy and gets banished, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, in this movie, it's like all of that stuff happens, but we do this little interlude, this little subplot where he's like, I have found out that I'm the child of slaves. Time for me to go figure out what it's like to be a slave. I'll do a day as a slave. It's like undercover boss. Moses just goes undercover boss mode and is like, time for me to work in the mud pits, see what this is all about.
I mean, yeah, like a couple of my favorite scenes are in this part of the film.
Yeah.
I really, really love the scene where they're building the pyramids and he saves his mother.
That is a good scene.
From being crushed by the stone.
That is a good scene.
I didn't realize it was his mother at first. But what I also really like is when I think her name is Bithya, is his Egyptian mother.
Yeah, his adoptive mom.
His adopted mother goes to meet her, and it seems like they know each other and they've been meeting.
Yes.
They've been having like meetings about Moses over the years or something.
The Council of the Moms.
Yeah.
Secret meeting of the moms.
This was one of my favorite scenes of the movie because I love the central conflict at the heart of this scene is like, it is who, Moses' two lives.
Yeah.
And his mom and his adopted mother kind of fighting over him. And then he shows up and sees them. And there's like, there's a great lines that they have where they're like, I gave him life. Well, I gave him love.
Yeah.
And then Moses shows up and sees his real mother for the first time. And she says, like, if you believe that men are supposed to be driven under the lash, then you are not my son.
Yeah.
And she won't admit that she's his mother.
Yeah. Cause she's like, my son wouldn't, subjugate other human beings.
Yeah.
It is a pretty powerful message. And, not for nothing, in 1956 in America, there were still some, as there are today, institutional things that were, elevating some people and pushing other people down. And, that's still going on today, but it was certainly a lot worse in 1956, right? So it does feel a little pointed for the time to be like, hey, if you think that, like, one man is better than another man because of his race, which is basically a thing they say in this movie, like, verbatim, then, like, that makes you bad. But
also we're only going to cast a bunch of white British guys in this movie.
Because it's 1956, so we're fighting racism with a different racism.
So, yeah, but then Moses goes to visit the makeup artist and enters the slave pits with brown face.
Yes.
But
he gets his spray tan.
I like the slave pit. All of the slave pit imagery is just always compelling for me. I love watching those guys whose job it is to dance in mud.
The guy who's dance, you mud turtles, dance.
Just move mud around. all day.
There's a lot of like very poetic dialogue in this movie. Lots of lines that are like straight from the Bible or from the other texts, or also just like very poetic, kind of epic film writing. And then there's shit like "Dance You Mud Turtles Dance," which like sticks out because it is sort of inelegant, and it's one of my favorite lines of the movie. Just hearing that guy being like, "Dance, you mud turtles." Yeah, I also like the mud pit stuff. I sort of forgot how well the bit with him rescuing his mom from the slab and then the confrontation with his two moms was, until you talked about how much you liked it. And I wonder if I'm being a little bit uncharitable to the first bit of this movie because I watched it when I was really tired.
That's possible.
So maybe take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But I stand by what I said about the opening being a little slow.
I do think some of the best stuff in the movie is in the second half.
Yeah.
To be fair.
And I think it opens a little slow.
Yeah.
And with a real god-awful kid performance. Yeah, so he's undercover here. This is when we really start getting into the Joshua and Lilia subplot, which again is something that it's like, I don't hate that this is in the movie. It just feels like we spend so much attention on it. Like we spend so much runtime on Joshua and Lilia. Joshua, who, like, not to be like a plot hole. I found an inconsistency, but it's like this character isn't even born when the events of this part of the Moses story happen.
Okay.
Like, so they just kind of added him in because they were like, what if he was here, And so it's like, there's not really a reason from the source text to include him. This was just like a Hollywood script note thing where they were like, yeah, have a young hot guy and his young hot love interest, and we can make this kind of a side thing for people to focus on or whatever. And I'm like, I don't hate it. Both of these actors are doing fine stuff. I just don't really see the point of any of this.
There is so much of it. It comes up again, like, even at the end, it's like we're doing the fucking death of the firstborn, and we're still cutting back to these cunts.
You're right, yeah, and where it's Joshua being like, I have to save Lilia, she's firstborn, and I'm like, you could just cut to them leaving Egypt, and she's just there, and I would accept it. You don't need to do all this.
You could remove all of their scenes from the movie, the scenes that they have together.
Yeah.
And the movie would be basically unchanged.
It would be fundamentally unchanged.
Has nothing to do with anything else that's happening.
Yeah. But yeah, we start getting introduced to them around here, and they have a little romance. Lilia is she's very attractive and very popular with all the men, right? Everybody wants Lilia, and the first scumbag with his eye on her is Vincent Price. Also, Lilia just gets a really rough go of it in this movie. Anytime we were dealing with this plot, it was also making me uncomfortable because I'm like, we're just abusing this woman consistently throughout the runtime of this movie. And I'm like, I don't really see the purpose that this serves. We're just like putting this woman into the clutches of another fucking lascivious creep. And yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
right?
Eventually she's Dathan ends up taking her into his service.
Yeah, she's like his wife or concubine or whatever.
Right, but Dathan doesn't really like have a big hold on the plot until the end of the movie.
Right.
And I understand you maybe need some build up for that, but there is just so much of it.
Dathan feels like they were like, oh, we need another villain.
Yeah.
Like it can't all be Ramses. There has to be some other antagonist for like the post Ramses stuff. And I'm like, kind of don't know if there needed to be, because it feels like all of this stuff with Joshua and Lilia is mostly in service of like building him up as an antagonist, and it's like, yeah. You got Yul Brynner, you don't really need another guy, but yeah, they're lovebirds, and Vincent Price is being a creep, and he's like, that one, take her to. I can't do a Vincent Price. It's really hard. His thing is so singular.
Yeah.
But he's like, take that one to my tent. I want her. And, and she's a slave, so she has to do what he says. And then I like the way that they do the Moses murdering an Egyptian in this movie, though, because that's the setup for it, is like Vincent Price has Lilia, and Joshua's like, I'm going to rescue my girlfriend. And so he like lights some hay on fire to like cause a distraction, and then like comes in to rescue Lilia. Lilia runs off, and then Vincent Price like gets Joshua captured, and like then Moses has to come in and rescue him. But I do like a scene that I really like, because anytime Vincent Price is on screen in this first part of this movie, I'm like, here's something for me to really latch onto. Like, this is really getting me into this movie.
Yeah,
because he's great as always.
He's really good in this movie. I love seeing him in a slightly different role where he's more just like slimy and creepy.
Yeah,
instead of like the kind of more theatrical Edgar Allan Poe style.
Right. Yeah, this guy is not like a gentleman villain. He's just a scumbag.
Yeah,
which is fun.
I love seeing him in scumbag mode.
Yeah. And I love this scene between him and the actor who plays Joshua, where he like tells all the guards to leave, and then he like puts his whip around Joshua's neck and is like, "I'm gonna whip you so fucking hard, man." And it's like he's really like intense and kind of horny about it, and I'm like, this is the Vincent Price freak energy that I am like absolutely here for, where it seems like he's like getting a boner about whipping this guy.
This was when I said out loud on my couch, Vincent Price gay? And I did a little Google.
Yes.
Bisexual.
Yes. Yeah. He played both sides of the field.
Yes. Had relationships with men that he did not disclose until I think later in his life, it sounds like.
Good for him. I mean, not good for him for being in the closet, because obviously that sucks, and it's horrible that people weren't more accepting of that. But good for him for getting around, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he, had a lot of fun with men and women. I love that for him. Yeah, it's a pretty gay scene.
It's pretty horny. And then Heston strangles him, and that's pretty horny too.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. I like Heston killing Vincent Price. I'm sad that Vincent Price isn't in more of the movie, but it makes sense.
I sort of want him swapped out with someone else, and I'm not sure who.
I kind of think if he was Dathan, I would not be as down on the Dathan stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I like the Dathan performance that we got, but I'm like, if it was Vincent Price,
even if he was like SETI or something, and I know that's just another British actor, white British actor in that role, but
he's probably too young to be SETI here, though.
It could be. Yeah, that could be it.
Yeah.
But I was pleased and surprised to see him here.
It'd be funny if Vincent Price was Aaron, and Moses shows up, and he's like, "This is my brother Aaron," and he's like, "Yes, hello, it's me, Moses' brother Aaron."
At least, yes, Moses, I will turn the Nile to blood for you. I'm Vincent Price. I do this just generally.
Not the first time I've turned a body of water into blood, but normally it involves many more murders. Yeah. Yeah, R.I.P. Baca, which is his character name. And R.I.P. to the real Vincent Price. R.I.P. everybody.
R.I.P. pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's alive from this.
No, it came out 70 years ago. Everybody's dead.
Oh no, the baby Moses was Charlton Heston's son.
Right. Yes, in his film debut.
Yeah.
Playing a little baby version of his dad.
And he's still alive,
which is fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
so he kills a guy, and he gets banished. There's some stuff with Seti's Jubilee, the pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
A thing that I did want to talk about, because it's the first time we see it featured prominently in the movie, is when they're talking about Seti's Jubilee stuff, and Moses is like, "Hey, look, Uncle Daddy," because Seti's technically his uncle, but he raised him, so they have he calls him son and stuff. He's like, "Hey, look." Uncle
Daddy sounds like a country rap rock artist. Be on tour with Kid Rock.
I thought you were going to say it sounded like another Pornhub search term.
I mean, it could be.
Uncle Daddy.
I know you're my uncle, but I really want to call you Daddy.
Oh, no. But he's like, "Hey, look at the city that I'm building you for your Jubilee. Aren't you proud of me?" And they like look out these windows, and it's the projection effect, which has not. Some of the effects in this movie have held up pretty well. Some of the projection in this movie is distracting at points, and I understand it was 1956, they were doing what they could, but sometimes I was like, that is unpleasant to look at. It happens a few times, and that was the first time that I noticed it, where I was like, really not great.
There are parts where it works. There are parts where it is really distracting.
Yeah.
And one of the moments in this movie that is the most distracting to me is basically where we are. Like Ramsey is found out. Moses has been imprisoned. I like the scene when Moses is imprisoned and Ramses comes to see him and he's like, "So I'm gonna fuck the shit out of your bitch now." I'm gonna fuck I want to say Nefertiti, but it's not that.
It's Nefertiri.
Nefertiri.
Yes,
I'm gonna
'cause
fuck
they were
Nefertiri so hard.
Nefertiti's copyright hasn't expired. She's not in the public domain. Yeah. This movie is bizarrely horny at points. I know you're going to talk about the rear projection, just very brief sidebar.
For a G-rated film, quite horny.
There is so much talk about fucking this woman specifically, right? Where tons of the early stuff in this movie is her being like, Moses, I'm the one, or you're the one that I want to have all of me. And then in this scene, he's like, Moses, I'm the one who will have all of her. And it's like, it almost is grosser that we're like using euphemisms to talk about this. Because it's like, now when you say all of me, I'm no longer thinking about regular sex stuff, and I'm like, they mean ass stuff, right? That's the only thing that this could mean, because of how much emphasis they're putting on all of me. Every last little inch.
Yeah,
all the holes.
She's gonna feel every last vein of my cock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just sucks that there's like this extra subplot and this woman basically just serves. She's just a plot device and she's overly sexualized at that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Pretty misogynistic movie overall, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rear
projection, he's banished into the desert. And this scene is shot on a soundstage with rear projection of the desert.
Yeah.
And it's a big emotional moment of the movie. And it is just so robbed of its power by being put on a soundstage with the rear projection. And then immediately afterwards, we get shots of Moses wandering through the desert, and it's Charlton Heston in the fucking desert.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it was about that previous scene that required them to shoot it on a soundstage.
I don't know.
But it just feels it feels so cheap and wasted, and it robs the movie of the magic and the grandeur that it is trying to convey to the audience. And even some of the scenes coming up here with Moses and Sephora, like looking out on their flock and leaning up against some rocks. And I'm like, why is this on a soundstage too?
Yeah. And I'm sure that there are logistical reasons, scheduling stuff, whatever, for why they did it that way. But you're right. It is jarring and distracting at times. And the scene that you're talking about is a perfect example, because they're showing the shot of Ramesses watching Moses go into the desert, and it's that rear projection, which is really distracting and looks like shit. And then they cut away from that shot to Moses walking in the desert, and it's just Charlton Heston walking in the desert, and then they cut back, and it reminds you how bad it looks. Like, it's just like, come on. Like, I feel like even in 1956, you can tell that this is visually unbalanced, you know? I agree. I also had issues with it.
Yeah. And some of the exterior scenes, like the base of Mount Sinai with the golden calf and stuff.
Yeah.
Those are shot on sound stages too, on sets, and those I can understand. But some of these smaller scenes just get shot on sound stages when I feel like they could have been done on location, and the movie would have been that much more powerful. So it just robs the movie of some of the magic, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And it captures that magic at other points, which makes it more frustrating.
It captures the magic when
ways.
it's outside. When we have this montage of Moses in the desert, and starving, and
Cecil B. DeMille, the director himself, is narrating it.
Yes,
and saying some of the like hardest shit of all time in this montage, where Moses is wandering through the desert. I don't really remember any of it, and I didn't write it down. but it's like the narration is so intense where he's like, only when he was beaten into the dust from whence he came could he finally be fashioned by his maker into, whatever. It's like, it's so like, it goes so hard. And it like, this is actually where the movie really started capturing me. Is Moses wandering in the desert, and Cecil B. DeMille doing that like hard as fuck narration, where I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is what I remember from this movie. Like, this is the stuff that has the juice, where it's like, this truly does feel like an epic about like the spiritual struggle of man, And then there's, all the stuff with Jethro and his daughters, which is a little bit of a lull. But I feel like it goes pretty hard when it sinks into that mode from now on. When it, like, sinks into the mode of, like, this is, like, he's, like, on, like, a holy quest from God, And it's, like, I don't know. It feels, the grandeur of it all, the power metal of it all.
Well, I like Cecil B. DeMille's narration too. When it goes a little excessive for me during the golden calf scene, where he's like talking about, they were engaged in sin and violence on a level we've never seen before.
Yes.
And it's
wrath and lasciviousness and all this other shit.
Perversion and degeneracy.
And I'm never gonna say the word orgy, but you guys know that's what I'm talking about, right? They were all fucking each other.
And other than the fact that they're gonna sacrifice, I think it's Lilia. They're gonna sacrifice Lilia for the golden calf.
Yeah.
Calf. Other than that, I'm just like, this just looks like it's like people having a good time.
Just looks like
they're just having fun,
like a fun party. Yeah,
they've been wandering through the desert for fuck ever. Like, let them get drunk and fuck each other.
Yeah, let him cut loose. Let him dance a little bit. He's been up on that mountain for fucking 40 days. People are bored, waiting for him to come down. Maybe don't fashion graven images, but a little wine, a little dancing, never hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Maybe just don't kill the woman and sacrifice her to a golden idol. But he's in Midian now. That's how this story goes.
Yeah,
I like him beating off these guys with a stick,
beating the shit out of the guys with the stick. Yeah, it's fun.
These guys who are in some of the more egregious brown face in this movie.
Yeah,
these guys are really like when these like, I don't know what they are, like Lamanites or something, I don't know, but like they show up and I was like, ooh. And the thing about it, the brown face in this movie that is weird and frustrating, other than it being brown face, is like there are actors of color in this movie.
Yeah,
there are like in the early part of the movie they receive like a Moses conquers Ethiopia.
Yes,
and they receive tribute from Ethiopia, and all the Ethiopians, as Ethiopians generally are in real life, are black, right? And it's like, okay, and there are black actors in this movie.
And one of the actors in that scene, I think he's like the king of Ethiopia. He's a recognizable face. Like he's in Spartacus. Yes. He's one of the gladiators in Spartacus who has like a decent amount of dialogue.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so we really couldn't give more roles to these black actors?
Right. But it's like, it's not like they're not in the movie at all.
Yeah.
If everyone was a white person in brownface in this movie, it would be like, well, that's racist, but it's consistent, right? It's more frustrating that they're like, black people are in this movie, but they're not allowed to have lines. Anyone who speaks a word of dialogue is a white actor, sometimes a white actor in brownface. And it's like,
and the rest
somehow worse,
and the rest just sort of fill out like the Israelites.
Yeah,
and, like they're on the edges of the frame.
Yeah, and then like at one point, there's like Nubians who show up at one point in the movie, and of course they're all black as well. But it's like we couldn't have, and some of the Israelites even are actual like black actors. They just don't say anything, and I'm like, could we not have one of these people in like a supporting role? Any non-white person in the support? No? Okay. Yul Brynner's as close as we're getting? All right. It's, it's weird. It's weird.
It's weird.
Even weird for 1956, Because it's like, again, if it was just all white actors and there was no representation whatsoever in this movie, I feel like that's like worse maybe, but consistent. This is confusing in how it is being deployed, right?
Yeah.
Anyway. But I do like him fighting these guys off with a stick though.
Yeah.
And
and it's also jarring because they just like sound like they're like thugs from a Batman game.
Right. Well, I don't see anyone's name on this water, so it's ours.
Yeah.
I'm taking it for the boss. Boss said we gotta take over this well.
I'm taking it for Mr. Joker.
I do like when they're saying like, "Oh, I don't see anyone's name on it," and she's like, "Well, it's actually written right there." And he's like, "Our goats can't read.
We can't read.
Neither can we."
Yeah, these guys are like doing bits.
Yes, I do like the goons. Some good goons. There's actually a lot of good goons in this movie. They're mostly just wordless. Like, there's a lot of guys who are just holding a spear or, like, fanning somebody. And a lot of them are just, like, huge, yoked, like, bodybuilder-looking dudes with, like, just standing stone-faced with no emotion.
A lot of dudes with faces, too.
Yeah.
And the extras, because Cecil B. DeMille puts a shitload of extras on screen in this movie.
Yes. It's a cast of thousands, as they say, right?
Yeah.
There's a bazillion people in this movie. Anytime there's, like, a big aerial shot where there's a huge crowd of people, every single one of those is an actual human being, which is, amazing and worth celebrating in its own right. Because it's, hard to stage that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And he does it to great effect in this movie. So then all of these women are horny for Moses. And that's basically this portion of this movement of the film is 7 women have their hierarchy, the pyramid of needs for all 7 of these women. Every level of the pyramid of needs is Moses's god.
They're also horny in Prince of Egypt.
Yes.
In that one, someone actually washes his cock.
Yes.
But no one does in this movie. I don't remember. I think the last time I read the Book of Exodus was this time last year when we did Prince of Egypt, because I'm pretty sure I did that for that episode.
I think you did. Yeah.
I don't remember this being a thing.
Maybe
that we were just like,
maybe it's just a popular thing.
Jethro's daughters have to want to fuck Moses.
It's just a popular thing in adaptation,
I guess.
All of these women are ravenously horny for Moses. And Sephora is the one who's trying to hide it the most.
Yep.
Which is why he's into her.
Yeah, and also because she's the 4th brunette actress who looks exactly the same in this movie.
My God, you look like my mom. Both of my
girlfriend.
You look like both of my mommies. And his girlfriend, who is also his aunt. Just wires crossed with this guy.
Yeah.
So I do like a scene that I really like in this movie. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is when Sephora is talking to Moses, and it is a rear projection scene, but this one is at night, and I think it looks much better.
Yes.
It's the one with Sinai in the background.
Yeah, the night stuff looks better.
I like when they're talking, and they're talking about Moses is kind of having a little bit of a crisis of faith in this scene, where he's like, how could a God who is all powerful let what is happening to my people happen to them? And Sephora is like, it's mysterious. We don't really understand why or how any of this happens, right? And he has a line that I really liked. I didn't take it down verbatim, but it's something like, I will, the only thing that's going to be good enough for me is if I can hear God's explanation from God, right? Like, I want to talk to this guy and have him tell me what is up, like why things work this way. And then like he gets to which is the compelling thing about the Moses story. It's like he's the guy who's like, hey man, why all this human suffering? And God's like, all right, let's talk about it,
Yeah. Moses is this close to becoming an atheist. He's like this close to like,
if
I have some Christopher Hitchens I could recommend you, Moses.
If he didn't see that burning bush, things would have gone a different way for him.
Yeah.
Right? But then he sees the burning bush and he's like, well,
what do you think of the burning bush scene?
I found it a little underwhelming.
Yeah, me too.
It's a little underwhelming.
Especially because this is where the intermission comes after this. It sort of caps off this portion of the film.
I'm sure it was much more impressive in 56 as an effect, right? And it's pretty. It looks visually pleasing, I think, the way that they do it. It's not a bad effect because it kind of has this glowing aura around it, right? And it looks all right. And it's kind of static And God's voice is very quiet and gentle in this movie, which I think is an interesting choice.
It's Charlton Heston's voice pitched down.
Yes, which they do. They also did in Prince of Egypt. It's also Moses' voice in that. But he's doing his vocal performance is pretty gentle as God, which is not a bad thing. I think that's definitely a take, right? But it's not very climactic, right? To me, it's kind of like, oh, okay, this is a burning bush, right? And it doesn't really land with any more like visual or kind of cinematic flair than any of the stuff before or after it. So I was just like, oh yeah, this is just kind of a thing in this movie.
Yeah,
you know?
I was pretty underwhelmed with it too. Not so much because of the effect, but just because like it doesn't have that atmosphere or that gravitas that a scene like this, I think, requires. And I don't
it's
remember
also really short.
It is, yeah.
They don't spend a lot of time on it, and I'm like, why so much time on Nefertiti and Moses and so little time on the burning bush? Like the part of this story that is like one of the most iconic images.
Cecil B. DeMille wanted to focus on Anne Baxter's burning bush.
Yeah, chlamydia. Give you a burning bush.
I don't know if she had a clue. I don't know. I know anything about Anne Baxter's sex life.
Yeah.
But she's dead now, so.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't think this scene has the kind of atmosphere and the spirituality of the Prince of Egypt scene. I don't remember what I said about the Prince of Egypt scene then, but like thinking about it now, I still can hear the music in my head.
Yeah.
I can hear Val Kilmer's voice.
Yeah.
I know the feeling of that scene, and this just doesn't have anything like that.
I really didn't want to make this episode of our show, The Prince of Egypt 2 Electric Boogaloo, by talking about that movie too much.
Well, you fucking...
I know.
It was inevitable.
It's
because you picked
fault.
this movie.
I wasn't thinking about it. However, I do... That was a note for me, not for you, because I don't think you talked about it too much, and now I'm going to talk about it too much. I think... You're right. I think the burning bush scene in The Prince of Egypt has so much more like majesty to it.
Yeah.
Like it has so much more like gravitas, right? And like even like the moment where the burning bush is like, take off your sandals because you're standing on holy ground. I remember that being like such a like impactful moment in The Prince of Egypt. And it carrying this like, oh wow, we're really like crossing the threshold from the world of the known to the world of the unknown here, right? And in this movie, it's kind of just like, oh yeah, take your shoes off, stay a while, hang. It's me, God. We're gonna have a little chat, you know?
Yeah, it's like leave your shoes at the door.
Yeah, right. It's like, oh well, you know,
yeah.
God has a clean house. He just mopped. He doesn't, you know. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Cecil B. DeMille making a biblical epic could have like gotten more juice out of this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. It's fine. It's not a bad scene. It's just a little underwhelming. Yeah. What I do like though is after he sees the burning bush and he comes back and sees Joshua has shown up. He just shows up in Midian at one point, like right before the burning bush. Right. And so he comes back to Joshua and Sephora. And I love him just like being like disassociating. He's like not present. And they're like, Moses, hey, come back to me. You know? And he's like, I just talked to God. And I like that it blasted his hair white. That's fun. I like all that shit.
Yeah.
I saw the face of God and it was a burning bush.
He told me it was the right of every American to own an automatic rifle. I'm going to spread his gospel far and wide.
God put his words directly into my mind, and his words were, from my cold, dead hands. The right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed, so saith the Lord. Yeah. I like that it blasts his hair white like he's Rogue from the X-Men.
Yes. And then he just gets progressively whiter and older throughout the movie.
The more he talks to God, the whiter he gets. Yeah. This is like around where we skipped over Moses getting married to Sephora, which is like fine because all of the stuff with the daughters is like not super interesting. But I did want to mention that when they do their dance thing for him, the dance is the unsexiest dance imaginable, which I think is very funny. Where Jethro's like, and now my 6 daughters, because Sephora opted out because she didn't want to do this shit, will dance for you, and you will decide which one you want to marry, my friend. And Moses is like, oh boy, how fun for me. And like, I like that all of Jethro's friends are like, wish I was you, Moses. Must be nice. And then they proceed to like full body headbang a bunch. And like whip their hair around and kind of like flail their arms and shit. And I was like, I love how not erotic this dance is. How it totally just looks like they're like moshing.
Yeah.
And he's like, ah, yes, very nice.
I like the scene where Pharaoh dies.
Yeah, that is good.
And Pharaoh says the last, like, his dying word is Moses.
Yeah.
And you could see how much that pisses off Ramses. I do like that this... I like that this movie establishes the conflict between Moses and Ramses very early on, and then does a good job peppering it in throughout the movie. I don't like it always showing up in the Nefertiti scenes, but you know, the one earlier when Moses is building the city, and Pharaoh comes to talk to him about saving the slave, which is his mother. There is like real tension between Moses and Ramses about like who's going to be Pharaoh and whose name is going to be carved next to his on all the obelisks. So I really like Yul Brynner's reaction to the Pharaoh's dying words being Moses.
Me too.
And just being like very, very hurt by that.
Yeah, him just being like, I am never gonna, like, no matter how good of a Pharaoh I am, I'm never gonna be fucking Moses.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, he does have younger child syndrome.
So after the intermission,
yeah,
it's Moses shows up to Ramses and does the stick snake trick.
I really like that they just kind of walk in.
Yeah.
Like, they're just receiving tributes from various other kingdoms. So, like, Troy brings them some silk, which I like that the guy from Troy is like, this is some cloth. Nobody knows how it's made. They call it silk. I just love that we get the origin of silk in this movie.
Yeah.
We also get the origin of Moses' stick. Because it's the stick that they had chained him to.
Yeah. That's fun.
Which is very funny, where they're like, and you take this staff. But yeah, I like that they come in with all the other tributes. And they're like, which kingdom are you from? And he's like, the kingdom of the Most High. And they're like, oh, must be from Midian. Fucking Midianites.
Fucking prick, all right.
And yeah, then his stick turns into a snake. That effect is pretty good.
Pretty solid effect, yeah.
It holds up. I wish we saw the snake eat the other 2 snakes. I understand why they didn't show it, because they probably couldn't make it look
I also
good.
wish the priest said, "You're playing with the big boys now."
Playing with the big boys now. I wish the
all of these sappy romance scenes and not one musical number. What are you doing, Cecil?
Not one Steve Martin or Martin Short. Who were probably, if they had been born at all, 2 years old. Yeah, these priest guys got nothing on Hotep and Hoy.
Yeah.
By
the power of Ra.
Playing with the big boys now.
You know what? What the kind of one of the main takeaways I got from this movie is like, maybe I was too harsh to the Prince of Egypt.
Yeah, maybe
year.
The Prince of Egypt is way better than we gave it credit for. Well, I mean, I gave it a lot of credit. But
you were like, it's restored my faith in the power of God.
That's true. Yes.
And
Ten Commandments didn't really do that.
Yeah, I was like, you know, maybe I need to give that one another look. Maybe I was too harsh on the Prince of Egypt.
Yeah, that's funny that
considering it tells this story in a clean hour 40 minutes.
It's so funny that DreamWorks, The Prince of Egypt. Like, it's so funny that watching Cecil B. DeMille's The 10 Commandments made you be like, maybe DreamWorks The Prince of Egypt is the definitive version of this story.
Well, last year I watched Ridley Scott's Exodus, Gods and Kings, which has some similar problems to this movie.
Maybe we'll cover that Easter 2026.
Yeah, that's next year. Next year we're doing that. And then we'll get to the rest of the Bible.
It's either that or Raiders of the Lost Ark, because that's a tie-in to this story.
yeah, it is the sequel.
Yeah. a direct sequel to the Ten Commandments. Cut forward, roughly 3,000 years.
The movie ends with a sequel tease where he's like, "All right, we'll put carry the tablets in the ark." And I'm gonna go walk over to this cliff now.
In a few thousand years, some Nazis are gonna open that up, and boy, will they be surprised. It's fucking snakes and shit, and then there's the Nile turning to blood. That happens here too.
We fast track through the plagues. We skip over the plagues.
Yeah.
Largely. We get I think the river turning to blood is a very good scene.
Yes.
The practical effects in this are still very impressive.
Yes.
With
the one thing in this scene that is such a compelling image, and it's like, okay, fucking Cecil B. DeMille, legendary filmmaker, I see you, sir, is like when the water turns to blood and it reaches the fountain where they have the god of the Nile with the two like fountains over its shoulders, and the water there starts turning into blood, and then the water runs down the little like steps, and the guy like points at it as it's turning to blood and is like, "It is blood." It's like such a great visual moment. Just the blood coming down next to the Nile god is like really good shit.
That's really good. The staff going into the water and starting the blood is also really good because it sort of seems like the blood is coming out of the prop, and then the rest of the pool fills up with the red blood.
Yeah.
And I think they just do that effect really, really well.
Yeah.
And then Ramses has a jug of water that he dumps out, and it's clear at first, and then it hard shifts to blood.
And then he drops it, and it's a blood splatter on the floor. It's so good. Yeah. I really like the scene too. I think it's great.
Yeah, but then we just skip over the rest of them until we get to Flaming Hail, which the Flaming Hail isn't all that impressive. I do like that they have a little confrontation where Moses is like, we're gonna bring in Flaming Hail next. Strap in for that, motherfucker.
You wanna rethink this whole thing about not letting my people go? No? All right.
All right,
it's gonna be Flaming Hail.
There's the storm cloud. Happy trails.
Yeah, the yada yadaing through the plagues is a real problem for me in this movie because it's like there is so much put into the spectacle of this movie, and a lot of the spectacle works really well, right? We see all of the construction of Egyptian cities early on is like very impressive, and there's like a 1,000 extras on ropes and pulleys and stuff, and it's like you can pull all that stuff off. You couldn't give me, like, some people with boils or, like, some frogs and flies. Like, just show me a little of it,
Yeah.
It's a real bummer that basically this scene happens and Moses is like, so as you know, there were a bunch of frogs and flies and stuff. That change your mind? And it's like, well, show it to me. I want to see any of it. And then you see the Flaming Hail and it's all right.
Yeah. Exodus doesn't have that problem. Exodus, Gods and Kings spends a lot of time on the plagues. And it's awesome.
It's the most visually interesting part of the whole story.
Yeah.
I also really like the way that they do the plagues in The Prince of Egypt.
Yeah.
Significant mark in The Prince of Egypt's favor versus the Ten Commandments is how they deal with the plagues. I send my sword. I send my
Well, yeah, they do a whole fucking...
Thus saith the Lord.
It's pretty epic in that.
And you have Ray Fiennes going, you who I called brother. Which I think about every day of my life. And that, it was so around here, there's more bullshit with Nefertiti. Where she's trying to convince Moses to come back to her, and she's like, we can still figure it out. And he's like, no, I'm God's servant now. And she's like, I don't know what that means, but do you want to like look at my tits? And all of that stuff, I'm like, we can just straight up lose this. Like, I don't care about this anymore. Mm-hmm. And it continues to hang on. And the one moment that I sort of like is like Moses goes back to Ramses and is like, "Hey, hail and darkness happened. What you thinking now?" And he's like, "Get this guy out of my fucking face." And he's like, "As a matter of fact, because you're annoying me so much, I am going to kill all of the firstborn of Israel." And Moses is like, "Really shouldn't have said that, dog. You just signed your own death warrant."
Oh, you just activated my trap card. I'm gonna Uno reverse you on that bitch.
It is very funny that God pulls an Uno reverse on Ramses. He was like, whatever this guy says next is actually gonna happen to him, not me.
He's gonna kill him the firstborn, huh? That's a good idea.
Yeah, maybe I'll do. You know what? We should do that.
All right, Moses.
Wait, he didn't copyright that, right? No, we're good to go. All right.
Moses, I'm going to call up the angel of death. We're going to get this shit in motion.
No, it's fair use. Fair use on killing the firstborn. You didn't file any paperwork. So the scene that I sort of like with Nefertiti is when she goes to Sephora and is like, "Hey, like, you and your kid might want to get out of here."
Yeah, I do like that scene too.
That one's all right.
That's all right.
Yeah. I also like that when the guy leads her in, there's like a soldier guy who leads her into Moses's little like slave dwelling. And on his way out, when he's leaving Nefertiti and Sephora to talk, he closes the door, but he does it while bowing. So he like backs out of the door with like fully like bent over. It's just a very silly image.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few moments like that stuck out to me where I was like, because there are a million people in this movie and all of them are doing shit in every shot, occasionally something goofy will happen and it'll like catch your eye. One of my favorites is during the parting of the Red Sea. There's just a rogue duck that wanders away. It was really making me laugh because like all the Israelites are going through the Red Sea in like a pretty in a pretty standardized and consistent like column, right? And then there's just this duck that wanders away from the group and is like, "I'm gonna go check out what's over here." And it just walks out of the frame. And I was like, well, I guess ducks can swim, so
some of those so in the Red Sea sequence, there's a shot, the shot of all of the Israelites entering the sea, and then Ramses is on the hill with the horses in this chariot.
Yeah.
Those horses are having a fucking hell of a time because at one point they're like acting all crazy and they're riled up, and they like almost fall off the cliff.
Yeah. How many animals do you think died in the making of this movie? Because there are as many people as there are in this movie. There are also like 1,000 sheep in this movie. There's hundreds of horses, hundreds of ducks and geese. I'm like, not all of these animals made it. There is no way. There's no way that they moved a column of 1,000 actual human beings.
Yeah, it's a Cecil B. DeMille picture.
Across the desert, and none of those animals got trampled.
Or everything's made up and animal rights don't matter.
I'm pretty sure some of the children may not have made it.
The guys riding the chariots, I'm sure we got like several broken bones from those chariots.
Yeah. Cecil B. DeMille's on the phone with Paramount, and he's like, I need another 1,000 ducks. Charlton keeps wringing their necks. As a show of masculine force. If a duck walks across the frame while he's in the shot,
you'll take this dead duck when you pry it from my cold dead hands.
Charlton's eating the ducks. We need 1,000 ducks for the picture, and we need another 200 ducks for Charlton personally.
Yul Brynner's grinding them into his protein shakes.
Yeah,
he's so jacked.
He's eating all those duck eggs. That's where those quads are coming from. Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, it's killing of the firstborn. So now we're at the creeping death, as it were.
Yeah, you could tell why. I mean, some of the imagery in this is really, really striking, like the cloud creeping across the sky over the moon, and then like the tendrils coming down. It looks like a hand.
Looks like a hand. Yeah,
I'm
that shot, and they linger on it for a really long time. I'm like, good fucking shit, really good shit.
When we're turning on like the world's weakest fog machine,
yeah,
I'm a little less scared of the Angel of Death personally.
When the fog gently rolls in, and then a guy just kind of falls over.
It's like you could totally outrun that.
Yeah.
You could just break into a light jog
Yeah.
on your way out of Egypt, and
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
You'll just run away from the death fog. Yeah. But some of the shit here is really good.
Yeah.
And even just the visual of the lamb's blood on the doorposts and stuff, very like the way that they do it is very visually striking and very interesting.
And the Passover scene too, where Heston's like, just ignore the people screaming in anguish in the background. Everyone eat your bread.
This is one of the things that I really like, where I'm like, this god is so scary. Because, like, what's happening is, like, God's wrath is coming to Egypt, and the way you experience it is from this kind of claustrophobic room packed with a ton of people, and they're all kind of like, okay, God's will be done. We're gonna get out of here. This is a blessing. And in the background, you're hearing, oh, God, don't let it in! Oh, fuck! Right? And it's, like, pretty alarming.
Yeah.
Like, it works pretty well.
I do like... Throughout this movie, there's the Israelites are sort of distrustful of Moses.
Yeah.
Like when he does the snake thing, Ramses says that they're no longer going to be able to use straw in their bricks, so they're going to have to work, around the clock to make bricks with this different method. And the people like turn on Moses, and there was a lot of doubt and mistrust that then Dathan sort of capitalizes on when they're wandering through the desert.
Yeah.
And I do like that. I like people being in doubt of Moses. And that's not really something that comes up in Prince of Egypt all that much.
Not as much. I think there's like one line from Jeff Goldblum in Prince of Egypt where he's like, hey, the priest did the same thing that you did, and, why should we believe you? And then it resolves pretty quickly.
Yeah. And then in Exodus Gods of Kings, Ridley Scott sort of pushes it to a bit of an extreme where, like, people think Moses has, like, lost his mind. And, and it sort of seems like he has.
Yeah.
Where they're, like, waiting at the shores of the Red Sea. And Moses is like, no, I'm going to fucking part this shit. Just wait. This shit's going to be fucking parted as hell.
Who plays Moses in that?
Christian Bale.
Hell yeah.
He's really good.
Yeah, I believe it.
He's really white. But he's really good.
Yes.
Also, Joel Edgerton as Ramses.
Oh, wow.
And he's
also
really
white.
good. And really white.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another one that... there's a quote from Ridley who's like, well, I couldn't have cast it with Muhammad so-and-so, so I had to cast it with white people. And I'm like, all right, Grandpa.
Yikes, Grandpa Rid.
I love you, but you got to calm down a bit.
Ooh.
You gotta temper some of that stuff, buddy.
Yeah, not loving that. Yeah. Well, what I am loving is, the deaths of the firstborn in Egypt here, because it's fun to watch. You know what I really love? That kid dying.
I love watching that fucking kid die.
And again, it's slow. Like, Ramses comes in and is like, "Hey, like, turns out a bunch of the firstborn are dying. Did I do that?" And then he's like, "Hey, let me check on my firstborn son," and he's like, "Father." like on his deathbed, and Ramsey's like, "Oh, really should have thought about this." But I also, a moment that I do like from Nefertiti is here on the kid's deathbed, where she's like just obstinate. Like, she's like totally like, "Nope, this isn't happening. I refuse. He is not going to die." Right? And Ramses is like, "Wake up, you fucking idiot!" Like, clearly the wrath of God is upon us. And she's like, "I don't think so. This is going to turn around for us." Like, I just loved it, like, how in denial she is. That bit I think is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pharaoh relents and frees the Israelites. And this is one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is the Israelites leaving out the southern gate of Egypt, because it's a real set on a real location with hundreds, if not thousands, of extras. And I don't even mind that they spend like 10, 15 minutes on this scene.
It's great.
And I'm sort of like checking my watch, like, all right, Cecil, at some point we're going to get some commandments, and you got like an hour left of this fucking thing.
Yeah.
Can we get to the commandments? But just watching these and all the little scenes and vignettes with like the blind man and some of that stuff, and just seeing these people.
There's a great moment where Joshua kicks Dathan off of his like big extravagant chariot, and instead puts Lilia and an old woman up there, and is like, "No, your ass is walking." Like that, like I don't care that much about that plot line. That little moment, I was like, this is great as part of this like big kind of epic moment of them all packing up and leaving.
And it's one of those things where it's like, you tell me, I mean, like, there was the budget and the resources and the time to put in a scene this extravagantly choreographed and built, I mean,
this huge
constructed from a production design, but we couldn't like get a couple of these like two-hander scenes shot in a real location.
I know. Yeah, it's a bummer. The inconsistency is a bummer.
Yeah.
But this scene, I agree, is really good. The scene that I thought you were actually going to say is the scene before it, where it is the two-hander scene between Heston and Brynner when he says like, "Yeah, your people can go." That scene I also really love.
Okay, it didn't stick out to me particularly, but
for me, it's just a great moment of Yul Brynner.
Yeah.
Like I really love him like tearing off the necklace
Right.
and hurling it to the ground when he's like, "Take the treasure, like loot us, like I don't give a shit." Right? It's just a great moment of like he finally gets to kind of like blow his lid a little bit, because so much of his performance is he's like keeping in the rage. Like a lot of it is like he's tamping it down to like be like kingly or whatever, right? And that's a moment where he kind of just acts like a spoiled child and he's like, "Fine, take your toys and leave." Right? And it was just a really good moment that I like a lot. And then it leads into all of the like great epic shit. I love the Alley of Sphinxes.
Mm-hmm.
That is incredible. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
It's all really good stuff.
And they're walking through the desert, and Ramses decides, you know what? Fuck it.
He gets talked into it by Nefertiti, which is a thing that like we've talked about how we don't really like the love triangle stuff. Another thing I don't really like with her character is towards the end of the movie, when she has maybe outlived her arc and is still just in the movie.
Yeah.
She sort of just turns into like, oh, Ramesses is not that bad of a guy, but this fucking woman is like his downfall. She's full of bad ideas. She knows how to twist him up and get him confused. This fucking woman. And I'm
this
right.
movie just invents a woman and then puts blame on her for everything that happens.
Right. It's basically like, oh, what if there was a lady who sucked so bad that Ramses was actually like not that bad of a guy, and it was really all a lady's fault. And it feels very sexist and reductive and like a waste of this character, because it just turns into her being like, Moses wouldn't fuck me, so now I'm an evil witch. It's like, all right, movie from 1956. I get it. You're upset that women can vote now.
But then Ramses puts on his helmet that makes him look like Megamind.
He does. And also...
I was like, what's this fucking Megamind looking ass motherfucker getting in his gay little chariot to go? Okay. Movies used to have chariots in them, Justice.
Yeah.
I love a movie with chariots.
I know you do, David. I also love a movie with chariots.
And there are so many chariots.
And you still haven't seen Ben-Hur.
No, I haven't seen Ben-Hur, actually.
If you love a movie with chariots...
Is Heston in Ben-Hur, too? Is he Jim Ben-Hur?
I believe he is. Let me fact check that, because I have been known to get shit wrong on this podcast.
That might be on my shelf. I can't recall.
I believe he is Ben-Hur. Yes, he is Charlton Heston as Judah Ben-Hur. Oh. Yes. And he's great in it, and I think he's better in Ben-Hur than he is in the Ten Commandments, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
Ben-Hur has a little bit more like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes in this movie, once he goes into like, I'm the prophet of God mode, he has less of those kind of like compelling human moments, and he kind of just becomes like a character from a Bible story. In Ben-Hur, he's a little bit more dynamic. He's got a little bit more like depth. I think.
Yeah.
But you really need to see Ben-Hur if you like chariot movies, because it is potentially the God Emperor of all chariot movies. There's a whole chariot set piece that's way bigger and better than the one in this movie.
Yeah.
Which is also pretty good. I like seeing all these chariots drive around.
Yeah.
But to your point, these horses look very confused about what they're doing. Some of them aren't even going in this... Like, there's chariots that are, like, going in the wrong direction.
There's just so many, and they're all close together. I'm like, someone surely got injured.
Oh, absolutely.
Doing this.
Some horse broke its leg, and then Charlton Heston was like, let me shoot it. Nobody shoots that horse but me. God damn it.
And then I will eat its meat to consume its essence.
You have a better Heston than me.
I felt like that line wasn't a very good Heston.
Oh.
But
I like your Heston.
I
I think you get like he's got like it's not an accent. He just has an affect that I think you can emulate pretty well.
Yeah.
I mostly just am like, yell in a baritone.
about gun rights. Yeah.
The whole bit where they're being pursued by the chariots is fun. There's a pillar of fire.
I like the pillar of fire
Love
effect.
that guy. Yeah.
I like that effect much more than the like the burning bush.
The pillar of fire also, I understand there are only so many ways to depict a pillar of fire.
Yeah.
But also, it is one of those moments where the Prince of Egypt later is borrowing a lot of imagery from this movie. And seeing the pillar of fire, I was like, oh, DreamWorks basically just watched the 10 Commandments and was like, great, so we'll do that. It looks exactly the same. And then, like, even Ramesses' like war headdress, like the hat that he wears to go on the chariots after them, looks the same in the Prince of Egypt. I was like, they just took the costume from this movie and put it on him. And then he parts the Red Sea with his stick.
Yeah, he does that.
That's the next thing that happens in the story.
And this is probably the best of the rear projection effects.
Yes.
I think this is still, it's dated and it's aged, but it works for the scene and it works for the movie.
It certainly doesn't look realistic or believable, but what it does look like is cohesive with the rest of the image, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's obviously fake, but it's like fake in a way where it's like stylistically consistent with everything else that you're seeing, right? Like the colors and it works for me.
And I think the scene itself is dramatic enough and impressive enough that it works as like a climactic and iconic moment of the film.
Yeah.
Prince of Egypt did it better, but that's because animation has progressed quite a lot since then.
You have less limitations in animation than you do in live action too, right? You're less bound to like actual physics and stuff, right? It's pretty good. Another thing that I think is funny is like the Prince of Egypt straight up also steals the moment where like there's a cart with a broken wheel.
Oh, right.
In the middle, in the bottom of the Red Sea or whatever. And in Prince of Egypt, they're like, leave it. And in this movie, they're like, okay, like, don't mind the wheel. We'll carry it or whatever. It's just like the same moment, which is just very fun.
Yeah, the Israelites definitely seem like they have a lot more stuff packed for the journey in this one. And they got the gold and the treasures of Egypt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're going to do okay. Whereas the Israelites in Prince of Egypt are like, you guys are going to go wander in the desert for a few years now?
You gotta find some food.
You want to pack some trail mix or something?
Yeah. Maybe like change of clothes at least. No? All right. I like the moment where Joshua says to Moses, hey Moses, go stand on that rock so that people can see you and you'll give them hope, which just seems like an excuse for the image. But I like that they put in a line of dialogue about it, being like, you know what you should do? You should stand up on top of that rock because it'll look really awesome if someone was like filming this, for example.
What should I do? Should I just sort of put my arms like this? All right, well.
Yeah, just hold up the stick. That looks great.
Give them a thumbs up as they come by.
Great job, everybody.
Good job.
Not you, Duck. Get back here, Duck.
Come here, you little fucker.
Where's that duck going? I'm going to strangle that duck. Send that duck to my trailer.
When God told me to free the Israelites, he didn't tell me I'd be freeing ducks too. I didn't sign up for this shit.
Those chariots go in the water. I like that when the water closes back up over the Pharaoh's army, you get some underwater photography of the chariots breaking up. And again, underwater photography of drowning horses, where I'm like, did Cecil B. DeMille just drown some horses? And was just like, just film them.
Get me some horses that no one will care about, that no one will miss, and give me a big water tank.
I want to see these horses struggling for their last breaths.
Man, there's probably nothing scarier than being attached to riding a chariot that is attached to a drowning horse.
Yeah, dog. Oh, fuck. No, swim up. Swim up. Yeah. And, then they get to Mount Sinai. And Moses is up there for a month. He's up there for 40 days.
Moses fucks off, and the rest of them have a party.
Yeah.
And Dathan is like, all right, now it's my turn to take power. What if we fucking worship a golden calf, guys?
I like that he kind of does that as like an improv bit, right? Where like the little golden calf icon is just within reaching distance.
They rule of three the golden calf.
Yes.
Because during the scene where they're all leaving, this kid's like, hey, I found this fucking golden calf.
Yeah.
And then it comes back later, and then they build the golden calf.
Yeah, but I like that Dathan is just like, we need some kind of if I'm gonna lead us back to Egypt, and in order for them not to kill us, they have to see that we're like on their side, so we have to have some kind of Egyptian god, like the golden a calf. It's it's like this right here. We'll do this, and then they build the golden calf. I like that Aaron is like, come on guys, I really don't want to, and Dathan is like, you sure about that? He's been up on that mountain for a really long time. Everybody here thinks it's a good idea, Aaron, so you should make that golden calf. And he's like, all right, I'll make the golden calf. They make the golden calf. And then I like that they cut back to Moses. So they start making the golden calf, and they cut back to Moses, and Moses is up there, and he's like, I've been up here for 40 fucking days. I did exactly what you asked. What else do you want from me? And like on cue, God shows up and is like, sorry, wait, were you waiting for something?
I was waiting for you to say that.
I was just waiting for you. I thought it would be really funny if I waited until you were super annoyed.
Just as a goof.
You thought I was never showing up.
The 11th plague was boredom.
You should have seen the look on your face.
And now, guest appearance from our old friend, the Pillar of Fire.
I do really like...
Yeah, it's red.
The tendril from the Pillar of Fire, burning the text into the tablets. That is really cool.
It's cool.
It's really cool. And I like the mixture of it's like animation where they like drew on the image basically, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like that kind of like 2D animation over top of the film itself. And then it's a mixture of that and actual like sparks and fire. They do both. And it blends really seamlessly. It looks really good still.
Yeah, the practical effect on the tablets looks really good.
It's so good. Yeah.
I don't know if we needed to see all 10 of them in like chunks of 3 cutting back to the orgy.
It is a little much. Boy, by the time
Meanwhile, on the same mountaintop.
By the time he's doing the last few, I was like, how many more of these things are there? I know that there's 10 of them. I've lost count already. We have to be close to the end, right? It is funny that don't kill is number 6. I always think that's kind of funny. That it's like God's like, okay, no gods before me, no graven images, some other stuff, honor your father and mother, keep the Sabbath day. Don't kill.
Well, God's been killing a lot of folks so far.
Yeah.
So he's maybe like,
you know what?
Put a Band-Aid on this one.
Yeah, should probably, just moving forward, from now on, no killing. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This time for real, though. No killing, guys.
All that killing stuff, that's in the past. We're putting that behind us. Turning over a new leaf, no killing.
I do want to give this movie credit for sort of making me understand or giving me an interpretation of something that happens in the Bible.
Yeah.
That I didn't really have before, which is Moses breaking the tablets in anger.
Yeah.
Him throwing the stone tablets at the golden idol, and then the golden idol falling into the earth, the fissure that opens up in the earth and is swallowed into hell or whatever. That was like more of a registered to me more as, God's wrath smiting the false god, and him throwing the tablets at the golden idol as a physical representation of that metaphor.
Right.
Which I don't think I've really. I think in the Bible he just like throws the tablets at the feet of the golden calf or something like that.
Yeah. I like the way they do it in this movie too. I feel like it, in addition to what you're talking about, where it like kind of reinforces sort of the biblical theme in a effective way. I also think that the giant crack that the golden calf gets sucked to hell.
I think some people fall in too.
People absolutely do fall in because they kind of split into two groups, right?
Yeah.
Where there's like Moses comes down from the mountain is like, I have these tablets with all these rules on them. And Dathan's like, fuck your rules. We're going back to Egypt. And so like some people are like, oh, Moses, we're going to follow Moses. And some people stay to follow Dathan. And he's like by the calf. So a bunch of people who were following Dathan just get sucked into the ground.
My bad on the don't kill thing, guys, but from here forward, definitely don't kill anyone.
Sorry, I really didn't know he was gonna throw those tablets at that calf like that. I should have warned him that if he was doing that, a portal to hell would open up and suck in a bunch of people. Which kind of contradicts the whole don't kill thing that he and I just went over. Next time, Moses, buddy, next time do a brother a solid and let me know if you're gonna throw the tablets at anything.
That was my bad, honestly. Just, we'll just pretend this never happened. We'll move on.
From now on, I'll give you some new tablets, and starting when you get the new tablets, no killing. Yeah, but I also think the thing that I think also is really good about this scene is it's an effective third act climax.
Yeah.
Which, like, if you didn't have the crack opening up and the calf going down and all the people falling in and it being all, like, crazy and apocalyptic here, it kind of feels like this movie would kind of end with, like, a shrug. But because you have this moment, it's like, oh, no, this is, like, a real climactic. Like, yeah, this is the end of an epic movie, So I think it needed this too, just like to kind of stick the landing. Yeah.
I do think the final scene is a bit of a shrug, honestly, but I think you're right. I think the golden calf functions as almost like a fourth act sort of climax in this movie.
Yeah. I do want to go to that golden calf party though. I don't want to worship the golden calf. I just want to, hang out and drink and listen to some.
It looks like
fun
good
music.
time.
It does look like.
It looks like they're having fun.
Yeah,
it's like fucking Burning Man or something, just a party in the desert.
I also like that there's a bunch of like people in like one tent who are like, we're not participating in the party. We do not condone this. Just like there's like a buzzkill tent. Of all these women and children being like, no. Yeah. Golden calf bad. I also like that Aaron is like doing penance. Like he has some incense that he's like offering as an offering to God, being like, really, really regret making that calf. Really shouldn't have let them talk me into it.
So then we jump ahead 40 years to the River of Jordan.
Yeah.
And the Israelites are crossing the river and
there's kind of a nice little map painting that shows that it's like green over there.
Yeah.
It's not a bad visual to end on, this kind of like kind of majestic map painting with in the foreground like this true like huge column of extras just kind of marching into the distance or whatever. Yeah. And they must have composited the image to get the map painting in there, but it looks pretty good.
And Moses Moses sort of seems like he's gonna walk off into the sunset and die.
Yeah.
But it does. I wish it had a bit more of a climactic, triumphant, sort of resounding finish.
Yeah.
Because it is visually nice, but I just wish I had a little bit more of this scene here. Like,
I agree.
We've been here for 3 hours and 40 minutes. And it just seems like, all right, golden calf is our last minute climax, and movie's over.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think the last scene is like not a total dud, but it is a little bit like less compelling than a lot of the stuff that came before it. And it's like that when I think about this movie, weeks from now, months from now, I am not going to be thinking about this final scene. I'm going to be thinking about other stuff.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't really end in a way that sticks in your head. I agree. Yeah. It's not bad. It's just like kind of whatever. And then that's the end of the movie.
That's the 10 commandments.
There were 10 of them. They were commandments.
Commanded.
Yeah.
Have you seen History of the World Part 1?
Only once. so I don't remember it very well.
The Moses bit they do where he has 3 stone tablets
Oh,
and drops
yes.
one of them.
Yes, I bring you the 15
The
10 command. Yeah,
fucking funny ass joke.
It's a really good joke.
Great joke.
Yeah, and I do like that they do a sequel sting for the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
Where they're like, put these things in that
Yeah.
box. More on that later. Yeah.
Justice
Yeah.
is Cecil B. DeMille's final film, The 10 Commandments, the greatest movie ever made.
David, this was an interesting one to go back to for me because it loomed very large in my childhood and in my recollections of my childhood, especially as a church kid who was the story of Moses and a lot of Bible stories meant a lot to me growing up because I was very devout. I really fully believed like all of this stuff to be like literal spiritual truth, right? So I think some of my affection for the movie maybe came from that, but also some of it I think came from the movie itself. Like there's a lot of images here that I think really stuck with me when I was a kid, where I was like, oh yeah, when that happens, when the pillar of fire happens, that's so crazy, or the plague of the firstborn and stuff. And even some of just like the big epic filmmaking stuff, like the Israelites leaving Egypt and the chariots and stuff. All of that was like cool to go back to, cool to see again and reevaluate as an adult. Some of that stuff holds up really well. Some of the stuff, like the rear projection, doesn't always hold up so well. And I found this movie to be, in spots, really engaging and interesting and well made and compelling. And then sometimes by turns a little boring, a little slow, a little frustrating. So I struggled with this watch of this movie because like I definitely enjoyed going back to the 10 Commandments, and I don't think this is going to be the last time I watch the 10 Commandments. I'll probably get the itch in another few years to revisit this now that I've seen it again as an adult. But I don't think it's necessarily a movie I'm ever going to give my full attention to again. I might have it on and then just be like, oh yeah, like I'm totally in for this bit. Oh, Nefertiti's talking. Time for me to like take a bathroom break or something. Don't pause the movie. It's fine. Is kind of where I think I'm going to be at on this one. So like, no, it's not the greatest movie ever made. I think there's a version of this movie if you just cut some stuff out of this and then made some different visual decisions like you were talking about, where it's like put some of these like two-hander scenes in an actual location with an actual set, right? If you trim some of the fat and you made some of those decisions, I think there is a version of this movie that could have been the greatest movie ever made, but it's not the one that we ended up with. And I think in terms of these sword and sandal epics, I would say Spartacus is better than this movie. I would say Ben-Hur is better than this movie. So it's like, there's not really a reason to like commit to the 4 hours of this one unless it's like for the Moses story of it all, So no, I'm giving this one a no. David, is the 10 Commandments the greatest movie ever made?
Justice.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to expect going into this because I am a big fan of historical epics. I do love just sitting and living in a different time period for 3 or 4 hours. And sometimes I fuck with even a biblical historical epic. And I think this movie is so convinced of its own greatness.
Yeah.
It often comes across as preachy and trite, and so convinced of the power of its own message and themes that I find it sort of dry and boring and am put off by it. But at the same time, it also often achieves that greatness. I think the sets and the costumes are beautiful and lavish and do such a good job immersing you in this version of the story. But it's also hampered with, again, like bizarre production choices where we're just leaning on rear projection in ways that I think would be better served by shooting these things in actual locations. A lot of the performances are really pretty impressive, but we're also introduced to so many side characters and side plots that don't add to the message of the movie or the story of Moses. This movie drags its ass too. It's 3 hours and 40 minutes, and you feel every one of those minutes.
Yeah, it really doesn't need to be as long as it is.
And I think we could easily lose an hour plus from this movie.
Yeah.
And maybe have a really, really compelling epic on our hands. I can definitely see the reasons why people at the time, and maybe still to this day, find this movie compelling. But to me, it's a bit of a struggle. It's a bit of a slog, but has a lot of craft and genuine filmmaking behind it enough to make me glad that I finally gave it a watch. I think it is a film that is worth watching, and like you said, maybe even going back to. But I don't think this ranks highly in my pantheon of great historical epics.
Yeah.
So no, The Ten Commandments is not the greatest movie ever made. So let it be written. So let it be done.
That's right.
So saith the Lord.
I do love it when Yul Brynner says that, though.
Yeah.
Anytime in this movie that Yul Brynner's going, so let it be written, so let it be done, I'm always like, fuck yeah. He said
I'm sent here by the chosen one. I'm creeping death.
Yes, you could spend 4 hours watching the Ten Commandments,
or just
or
8 minutes. 8 minutes listening to Creeping Death.
To Creeping Death by Metallica.
Or again, an hour and 90 minutes, or an hour and 40 minutes, or whatever, watching The Prince of Egypt.
Watching The Prince of Egypt, which I think we both now agree is the better version of this story.
Yeah.
Than the Ten Commandments of the two that we've covered. The Prince of Egypt. You heard it here on the greatest movie ever made. DreamWorks' The Prince of Egypt, better than the Ten Commandments. So let it be written, so let it be done. At least that movie's less racist and sexist.
Yeah.
That's also not a thing that I talked about in my verdict, but it's like, this movie's really racist and sexist.
It
with all the brown face and all the like shitty stuff with Nefertiti's
character. It really does not hold up at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's a blight on this film, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, Prince of Egypt has a bunch of white people too, but at least
they have the decency to be cartoons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, David, what are we talking about next week?
Justice. It is Alien Day once again.
That's right.
April 26th. I think this will be coming out on the 25th. So we are watching the next film in the Alien franchise. This is the first time that we've covered a movie and its sequel, I think.
Yeah. Well, except for Dune.
Yeah, except for Dune. And this will be another director who is entering the repeat director's circle. We are watching James Cameron's 1986 film Aliens.
Fuck yeah.
And I will have so many things to say about that movie.
Yes, enjoy our 3.5 hour episode on Aliens. our 10 Commandments sized episode on Aliens. Game over, man. Game over.
I've decided that we're going to do an Alien movie every year for as long as this podcast is running. So we're doing Aliens, and we'll find out if it's better or worse than the original Alien film. This will be your second time watching it. This will be my umpteenth time.
Yes,
it's innumerable beyond counting. The amount of times I've seen this film.
Yes, I've seen it. One time.
So
excited to go back to it though.
Join us with the Space Marines and Ellen Ripley on LV426 on April 26th.
Yeah.
25th, maybe. I don't remember the date exactly, but it's around that time.
Whichever.
In the meantime, be sure to tell your friends about the show and spread the word on social media. Like, rate, review, comment, subscribe.
Yes.
And
those are our 10 commandments.
Carve it into a stone tablet and proclaim it from a mountaintop.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys then. As always, later dipshits.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Greatest Movie Ever Made. Please remember to leave us a rating and a review, and to subscribe to the show wherever you listen. We appreciate you supporting the show and spreading the word. Tell your friends to listen, tell your enemies to listen, tell your mom to listen. If your neighbor has an unsecured Bluetooth speaker, connect to it and play an episode. You can follow us on social media at TGMEM_podcast. And if you've got a movie that you want us to talk about, send us an email at thegreatestmoviepodcast@gmail.com.